Hello again. In this lesson, we'll focus on lexical semantics and the sense relationships among words. First of all, it is important to remember that words are organized in your minds according to different sense relationships that they hold with one another. For example, some words are related to animals, parts of the body, music genres, and so on. So this means that the members that belong in these categories will be distinguished by the presence or absence of certain semantic features. And of course, these sense relationships that they hold are going to be important in distinguishing and organizing these words. Let's look at some examples of how words can be related. If we look at this first group of words, we will see that amazing, astounding, surprising, and stunning share a similar meaning, whereas the pairs of words in this second group, innocent, guilty, day and night, cold and hot, passive and active, seem to hold a relationship of oppositeness. If we look at this third group, we will see that see seems to be a general action that includes glimpse and stare and gaze and ogle. And finally, water and glass, Mexico and AMLO, monarchy and crown seem to be related in some way, and in some cases they can use one instead of the other. From these examples, we can see that words can hold a relationship of synonymy, antonymy, hyponymy, or metonymy. This means that some words can have a different form but the same meaning, or a very similar meaning, that some words can be opposite, in complementary, antonymous, or incompatible ways, that some words, of course, are some specific instances of a more general word, and finally, that a word can be substituted for another word or expression with which it is closely associated. So synonymy, antonymy, hyponymy, and metonymy are some sense relationships that words hold with one another. Let's begin our discussion by talking about hyponyms and their importance in vocabulary expansion. Hyponyms are important because if we look at these words, we can say that whereas each of these pictures represent shoes, each of them have different characteristics and will be designated with a different word. For example, the first pair are called wedges, the second one stilettos, the third one galoshes, the fourth one espadrilles, the fifth one flatties, and of course the last one are the Mary Janes. So all of these words are hyponyms of shoe, which is the superordinate term. So this means that there is a general term and then different names, different examples that represent each characteristic of different shoes, which we call the hyponyms. Normally, in dictionaries such as the Cambridge Dictionary Online, we'll find a great number of hyponyms and related words in the same semantic field. Hyponyms may include very important words like the ones used for describing facial expressions, like Obama's hair, or Enrique Peña Nieto, or Freddie Mercury, Robert Downey Jr., Mr. Bean, Emmanuel Macron, or our friend Vladimir Putin. If we're asked to describe a person's attitudes by describing the facial expressions, we will need vocabulary such as frown, pout, grimace, roll one's eyes, raise one's eyebrows, purse one's lips, or even wink. All of these will be hyponyms of the general word or concept that is facial expressions. A very important point concerning hyponyms then is that vocabulary development that is shown in the use of a great number of these words is a clear milestone between the level B2 and the level C1 in the Common European Framework of Reference. This means that in order for us to achieve a C1, we need to know and use a great number of hyponyms. We will now discuss the relationship of oppositeness, but before that we need to introduce a very important semantic concept called entailment. Let's look at this sentence here. She parked outside the school. If we read this sentence, there are three important things that we can infer from the information that is given. First of all, that she has a car. Secondly, that she knows how to drive. And third, that she didn't park inside the school. So entailment is some information that follows logically from the things that are explicitly stated. Another example would be, I almost finished my homework, in which it follows as a logical consequence that I am a student, that I had homework, that I did most of it, but that I haven't finished it. So these three other propositions can be inferred from just and only the meaning of the first proposition. So entailment can be defined as something that logically follows from what is asserted. This means that we have previous knowledge of the world that allows us to draw entailment from the information that is given to us, and this knowledge is called presupposition. Now, it is important to contrast entailment with implicature, which is a pragmatic concept. If we look at this example here, where a person says, the teacher's car got stolen, and then somebody replies, really? And the first person says, well, she parked outside the school, we can clearly see that this last utterance, she parked outside the school, has an invisible meaning, which means there are lots of criminals outside the school, and therefore it is obvious that the teacher's car got stolen. And if we look at this second example again, where a person says, want to go to the movies, and the other person says, I almost finished my homework, we can again see that the utterance, I almost finished my homework, has a hidden meaning, which is, yes, just give me a minute. So we can see here that the sentences that we have here, from which we drew entailments before, can have a different meaning here, because this meaning is implied. This means that this is intended meaning according to the information that is shared by the speakers in an interaction. So the interpretation of this intended meaning or implicature that each utterance has can be called an explicature. This means that every time that we have an utterance, this utterance may have a hidden meaning that needs to be explained by means of this process of explicature. Now that we know the concept of entailment, let's look at different kinds of oppositeness. The first one is complementarity, and this means that what is not described by one term can be described by the other term. Some examples of pairs of words are same versus different, right versus wrong, true versus false, and connected versus disconnected. Now we know that these words are complementary because we can reverse the relationship and keep the same meaning and even have negative entailments. We will see what this means. Let's look at some examples of how complementarity can be demonstrated with negative entailment. We'll have some pairs of words and we will see that even though we inverse the relationship or make them negative, the meaning will remain the same. We'll use the words right and wrong and true and false in different combinations. If I say that I'm right, it logically follows that I am not wrong. And vice versa, if I say that I'm wrong, it logically follows that I'm not right. In the same way, if what I say is true, means that what I say is not false. And if what I say is false, it follows that what I say is not true. If we change it now, if I say I am not right, the logical consequence will be that I am wrong. And if I say that I'm not wrong, the logical consequence will be that I am right. And the same happens with true and false. If what I say is not true, it follows that what I say is false. So no matter how we change the relationship, the meaning will remain the same. And that's why these words are complementary. Now, antonymy is a different kind of oppositeness because in this case, unlike complementary terms, antonyms do not hold negative entailments. Some examples will be silent versus noisy, full versus empty, and early versus late. In these examples, we will see how antonyms do not hold negative entailments. We will use the adjective full versus empty, and we'll have them here in different forms. If we look at the first example, when we say the glass is full, it follows that of course the glass is not empty. And similarly, if we say the glass is empty, it follows that the glass is not full. However, if we say the glass is not full, this doesn't necessarily mean that the glass is empty. The glass may not be full, but it may not be empty either. And of course, if we say the glass is not empty, it does not follow that the glass should be full, because the glass may not be empty, but it may not be full either. So this happens because there is middle ground between one concept and the other. So this means that they are not complementary, but they are antonyms. The last kind of oppositeness that we will study is that of incompatibility. And in this case, we will know that concepts are incompatible because they exhibit a high number of entailments with other concepts to which they are related. For example, if I say the pen is black, it logically follows that the pen is not white, but also that the pen is not blue, and the pen is not red, and the pen is not yellow either, the pen is not green, and we can mention all kinds of different colors. So generally speaking, we can say that hyponyms hold a relationship of incompatibility with one another. This means that if we mention one member in the category, the entailments would include all of the other members of the same category. We call this incompatibility. Lesson on the different sense relations that words hold with one another by talking about metonymy. Now, metonymy means that a word or phrase can be substituted for another one with which it is closely associated. For example, when we say the White House remains silent about the war crimes in Afghanistan, or he asked her hand in marriage, or keep your nose out of my business, or Wall Street suffered its biggest one-day loss since the 2008 financial crisis, we know that the White House means President of the United States, that her hand means her, that your nose means yourself, and that Wall Street stands for the stock market. So in each of these examples, a word or expression is replacing another one which it is closely related, and we call this metonymy. So, in this lesson we have discussed many important concepts in lexical semantics such as metonymy, hyponymy, synonymy, and antonymy. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I will be seeing you in our next lesson.